Hi, everybody. Welcome to Highly Questionable Marketing. I am your co-host, Jay Barron, joined by Joergen. Joergen, what's up?
Hey, how are you, man? Let's do this.
I am ready, and I am actually really fired up today. I think we have two awesome topics that we're going to discuss, and they are honestly always all over LinkedIn, so we can't go wrong covering them. Number one is kind of started by, the biggest guy in B2B right now, in my opinion, Chris Walker. I see him talk all the time about this idea that brand creates demand. He says marketing is really simple when you break it down. Create demand in awareness channels, and then capture demand in intent channels. And that's all marketing is. And I really wanted to zero in on this topic because honestly, Joergen, I kind of call bullshit. I do not think that marketing is as easy as just creating demand in awareness channels, and I'm going to tell you why. Number one, I've talked to several people this week, actually, and what I've learned is they're all out there going to try to build awareness. I actually fell victim to this, which is I was looking at our lead gen, like, man, our lead gen isn't working. Okay, so, hey, everybody's talking about this build brand to create demand. I'm like, that's the missing piece. We went out, we invested tens of thousands in building awareness, and I can tell you what, there was no revenue behind it. And I'm kind of fearful that honestly, that's what's happening right now. A lot of people are reading this message in the marketing space, and they're thinking, well, fuck, our marketing's not working. Well, let's go try that brand creates demand thing, and they're missing a lot of the bigger pieces. And that's really what I think is happening. That's kind of what I'm calling bullshit. It's not that it can't work. It's that I think a lot of people are mistaking the advice.
Okay. You coming in hot. I like it. Much respect. So first of all, shout out to Chris, right? I know we both have a real appreciation for what he brings to the table. So no diss there. I think, first of all, when I hear brand, I'm like, well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about like building a brand, or are we talking about generating awareness, right? So there's that little marketing nerdy distinction. Beyond that, let me just be clear. Let me be on record and say, I am a brand guy. If I could, I'd be like, I'd be really focused on that, right? Like brand is awesome. Brand's amazing. Like my heroes are brand builders, right? So I have a lot of love for that. And I know what Chris is saying. The thing that is tricky about this is that most of us marketers, right? B2B, if we're talking about that, we can't afford to do the level of brand building that is required for it to actually create demand. And we fool ourselves to think that we can. Oh, well, if I just create like some cool, like kind of like content and video that is like super just about like how awesome we are and stuff. Like I've made this mistake, right? Like I have absolutely made this mistake of just like, no, but this would be so dope, like this would make, and then you kind of like, well, a couple of investments like that doesn't build brand to the point where it generates demand, right? Like it doesn't work that way. So what happens is that you run out of steam unless you're really set up to run that marathon, and it takes more than people are willing to admit. And even though the advice is real, it isn't the most practical, unfortunately, for most.
Yeah, maybe to just really quickly on that sentiment, and that's like my fear when I talk about, right, brand creating demand. That's how people are reading it. I think I'm looking at it from the lens of they're thinking brand marketing, right? Brand marketing is not what these companies need. Most average marketer is not even great at capturing intent, honestly, right? So do we do brand marketing? No, there's 100 things you need to do. What I always say is you need to build a brand deserving of growth, and brand is then fuel on top of an already existing strong growth lever. I think you have a lot of companies right now that are using brand as a way to try to make growth happen, and that's not how it really works, honestly. I want to jump over to our next topic, and I know you're super passionate about this one, so I'm going to pass it off to you first to start.
Here we go, man. Here we go.
There is a lot of talk on category creation right now. And, Giotano came out with the heat on this one. He just flat out said, I'm going to call it for what it is. He was really honed in on conversational marketing, right? It's not a category. It's just another name for a chatbot. And then he really zeroes in on the fact that trying to sit here and try to create a category, you're probably not going to pull it off. There's honestly probably better activities you can do. And I know you're super passionate about this one. I know you're a big Drift fanboy. So I'm gonna kick this off to you to start, because that's kind of who he zeroed in on a little bit too.
Should I put it on or not? Look, yeah, he came in pretty hot. What are we talking about here? Like, okay, category police, right? Like, is it a category or is it not a category talking about conversational marketing? Like, first of all, like, much love, G, like it's all good, but like the question isn't whether something truly by definition is a category or not. That to me is not like the conversation here. The conversation is, are you creating a narrative that actually fucking works? And the question in that post that we're talking about, although yes, there is a bigger conversation and all that, but in this particular post, the thing was conversational marketing is not a real category and Drift is cult-like and blah, blah, blah. Okay, right? Like, okay, here's the point. Here's the point. Conversational marketing worked. And if we don't have a definition of exactly what a category is, then it's a bit reckless to say that something isn't. And again, more importantly, all you have to do is you have to figure out what your narrative is. And Drift has done that now a couple of times over, so don't hate.
All right. I can appreciate that. I'm actually going to go and fully agree with G on this one. I think number one, he's 100% right. I'm not a Drift hater, but I do look at them and I think they're literally a chatbot. I've had conversations with people, and that's honestly what I feel. And number one, the category thing aside, that's not needed to have a strong narrative. And I think that's the problem that you're even saying too, is you don't need the category, honestly, although what they did, they pulled it off and were successful. But you don't need the category. You need the strong story to go with it. And really what's happening, and I see this and I talk to people, I've had calls and people are calling me saying, we want to create a category. Right? Like there's this huge buzzword around it, and it is, to his point, insanely difficult to pull off. You honestly do not need to create a category. You're probably better off having a very strong narrative within an existing category so that you're clearly differentiated from the rest in the field. And I really think that's kind of some of what he was really zeroing in on with that. And I kind of agree with some of that sentiment, which is skip the category thing aside. That's bullshit. Okay, Drift is not conversational marketing. It's a chat, but I just want to get that out of the way. And then lastly, and I think right to your further point, which is build a strong narrative. That really is the key to being different than having a category that can confuse buyers and not fully understand what you offer.
Fair enough, but conversational marketing didn't confuse buyers, right? Like, it's just commentary. It's sort of sitting on the sidelines saying like, yeah, I don't know about that. The shit worked, like, period.
Yeah. So I want to just really quickly, as we wrap up time, I want to ask you something. Does it work more because they're marketers selling marketing? And does it get harder when you get out of that space? Because that's a lot of what I see, honestly, is it's really easy in our little circle. It gets way harder when you're trying to sell to IT people, security folks, HR, to go out and create a category and layer on additional confusion.
That might be true, Jay, but the bigger thing here is that they didn't start with category. They started with audience. They started with who. And that's what matters, right? They knew that they were going to serve marketers. That's what they knew they were going to do. Our job, like, they started marketing before they had a product, right? Like, they knew they existed to serve an audience. And everything was about that. Like, the Drift case study is awesome, and it has multiple layers to it. And yes, I'm okay with some people like feeling a certain way about it, but it isn't that conversational marketing is working because they're marketing to marketers. It's because they truly understood their audience.
Hey, I'm going to end this like this. Here I am bashing category creation, and if you go to my website, I've tried to create a category. So we're gonna end it right there. So That is great. I think those are excellent 2 topics. We will cover this again in a week, and we'll keep it going.
A lot of fun, Jay. A lot of fun. Much love.